Ready? Welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission. First, is there anybody here who'd like to speak on anything other than what's on the agenda? If not, guys, look over the minutes. Any deletions, corrections, additions? If not, I'd like to have a motion to accept last month's minutes.
Make a motion to accept last month's minutes.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have two seated alternates tonight. Steve and John. We're gonna start with application 22-03W, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did receive a request today from the applicant representing application 2202W Little House Living. Mr. Cassidy, who is their engineer, who's representing them, is attending another public hearing in the neighboring community, which started earlier this evening. He requested that we just push that hearing back a bit until he arrives due to a number of complications developed as a result of that. So,
And I think he's an important part of their presentation,
Yes.
so.
Yep.
So, we're gonna open up with the public hearing on application 22-03W, proposal by Manifest Rifle Club to relocate an existing drainage swale and construct an access driveway within a regulated area on lot 6, block 130 at 193 Buckley Mills Road. Can I have a motion to open a public hearing?
I make a motion to open public hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Up for the Manabasset.
Good evening, I'm Ken McCarty, surveyor, Marlboro, Connecticut. For your last one. Had a proposal in there. Sure.
If anybody, any citizen audience want to see this, you can move out to check it out.
We had a discussion last time, this is try and find an alternate, we did, we had a couple of contractors come out and take a look at it, and have a better eye for figuring out how it's gonna make it work. So actually, they said, originally we had a drainage swale. This was last month's proposal with the drainage swale, and then the driveway, the access driveway coming in right along the edge of the driveway in the wetlands. Went back, like I said, we had a couple contractors come and look, and this is, we really don't need to do that, we can come right in here in this corner. We're gonna have to move the shed, fencing will have to get relocated. I'll leave that pipe there, shorten up a little piece of pipe. This drainage swale that we had originally, no need, and then this comes right up. Actually, this good distance from any wetlands flag at that point. Shorten up the driveway from 140 feet down to 75. And like I say, we eliminate that 75-foot drainage swale. So really, we're close, but not in it at all. It's just better. This is going to be a little more work to read. There's a big berm right there. The material's got to come out, bring this into the area of the utility field.
Okay, none of that area that you're talking about is in wetlands, or is it upland review area or anything?
Upland review.
Okay,
It's,
So you're just gonna move a shed and kind of level it out to get there, right?
yeah, it's a big berm there. We're going to remove that, make it grade, bring it down, and grade it from the existing driveway there, match it to where we want to be for the utility field.
So you're just putting down trap rock or?
We're thinking gravel.
Gravel, yeah.
Yeah. My thoughts is, and I think over here, this is where the drainage pipe comes out. Probably should put a little bit of riprap on that edge, 6-inch stone just to stabilize it. And again, put some plantings along there to help the buffer can't satisfy. Yeah, much better.
It seems like you're doing less work as far as digging up any of the soils around there, I mean, how much work is it gonna be to move that shed?
Shed, it's a temporary shed.
Oh, it is?
It's not, yeah,
Okay,
it's basically one of those ones on skids where you pick it up and
oh, okay,
slide it around wherever you wanna go. Yeah, it's just, initially the roof berm was, we tried to work around that and leave that in place. And now let's dig right through it, grade that corner and get it look much better.
Sounds better.
do you have any, yeah, it seems like it's gonna be a better proposal for. Anybody have any questions from the audience? If not, any other questions for the can?
Mr. Chairman, I have other revised plans if you guys want.
Yeah.
Copies of those.
Yeah.
So I can have those there.
Get a copy of that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's submitted with the board and with Jim and Lisa.
Okay.
So they can have it on file.
Yep.
If not, I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing on 22-03W.
Make a motion to close the hearing, 22-3W.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Now I'd like to have a motion to approve the revised plans.
Make a motion to approve application 22-3W.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, public hearing is application 22-04WF, proposal by Shuttle Metal Development LLC to construct a 19-unit multifamily housing project and associated improvements in a regulated area on lot 46, block 151, 309 Main Street, East Berlin. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Up for the applicant. Yeah, really.
Don't see anyone here. The applicant was advised of the hearing and he requested, if you recall, the last.
Yeah, last meeting you requested to come to us.
We did receive revised plans recently.
Yep.
In regards to that. At this point, I would make the recommendation that continue the hearing till the next meeting, until the applicant is present to make a proper presentation.
What does he have, 90 days to
He has 35 days at this point.
this point?
And there's additional time that can be extended.
Right.
It is requested.
So I need a motion to extend the public hearing.
To continue the public hearing, unless there's someone from the public
Yeah.
that wants to speak.
Yeah, is anybody here on this project?
Which is the Shuttle Metal Development in East Berlin.
I need a motion. I have to close the public hearing?
I wouldn't, no.
Okay.
I would make a motion to continue the hearing
Yep.
until the.
Correct. Yeah, I need a motion to, on application 22-04WF, to extend the public hearing. Go ahead. A second?
You need a second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
One of those nights.
Yeah. We gotta open.
Pat, I know that you're here, obviously you're,
Yeah, my engineer's at another meeting, said I think he said he spoke to you, so
Yeah.
he had it just later.
yeah,
I guess we can do the same,
we could open and continue it. It's your request
Yes,
at
that's,
this point.
I mean,
I mean, we can wait.
I think we have public comments here, so I don't know if you wanna do that. Or rather have us present first, that's.
I think it's best if you present the application so everyone has a better understanding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
Unless the commission feels otherwise.
the problem is that we can open the public hearing and you guys can talk, but there's nobody here to answer any of your questions as far as what's going on. So what the applicant's looking for is to extend it to next month.
So they had prior knowledge on it. When will his engineer be here? At what time?
He's at another public hearing in New Britain right now, so as soon as that ends, he's on his way here. I can't say if that's 15 minutes.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we could wait,
I know that I spoke with Mr. Cassidy earlier today. Originally, we thought that it was going to be a 6:30 public hearing. We thought he would, be through by 7 o'clock and be here. Then after the discussion he had with him today, he was talking more like 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:30. We can certainly go on to onto other business, okay? And you
Yeah.
can see where that takes us. And then following that, the commission will make a decision on what you want to do. At that point, that's fair enough, Pat?
That's fair.
Yeah.
right? So we'll continue other business. Jim, we had the 7-Eleven Slington Road.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I believe in your package, there's correspondence from the Connecticut River Coastal Conservation District that provided assistance to the property owner at 7-Eleven Southington Road in regards to replanting, reviewing the activity that took place in the upland review area on their parcel. I think if you read through the correspondence or the recommendations that have been forwarded to the property owner and to myself, the district is talking about placing additional plantings in the springtime. They give an offering of various types of vegetation that can be planted. I've spoken numerous times over the past month or so with the property owner, and I'm not sure whether they are present on Zoom tonight or not. Lisa, do you see anything there?
Nope, I don't see any
From them?
participants.
Okay, that's unfortunate. I thought they were going.
Well, they didn't think it was gonna go this quickly.
It's really. But as I said, I've had numerous conversations with them. They are more than willing to heed the recommendations of the district. From what I understand, they have already ordered a number of the plantings that the district offers in the springtime through a planting program that they put together. It's not very often that I work with property owners that are this responsive and cooperative in trying to resolve the situation.
And from what I can read, Jim, is the only thing that this recommended was removal of the wood chips that were there.
Right.
And that's
Some
already
of
been done.
Some of that has already taken place. You can see the property owner forwarded some photos
Yep.
to us today, shows that area. My recommendation would be for the commission to accept the Conservation District's planting scheme, and it's something that we can oversee this spring. Obviously, planting season will be before us in the very near future. Hopefully, we can put this situation to rest.
And is there anybody here from either side of this? I don't, I just like to hear the other side of the complaint. You haven't heard anything over the last.
I believe that the budding property owner that filed the initial complaint stopped in and received a copy of the Conservation District's recommendations. I didn't speak to him personally, but I know that he did come in, and I have yet to hear from him, so I'm assuming.
So
No news is good news, as they say.
the motion you want is to just accept what recommendations of the Coastal River, Connecticut River Coastal Conservation District, and You're gonna staff will oversee it. Can I have a motion to that effect? Anybody? Got somebody?
I make a motion to accept the Connecticut favor of coastal conservation. 7-11, so.
With staff overseeing.
Overseeing, yeah.
Can I have a second? Second. All in favor? I don't know how long you wanna wait, Jim,
Say just leaving the written time, I'll be here within 10 minutes.
okay,
Want to take a brief recess?
yeah. We have to,
Make a motion.
can I have a motion to a brief recess for 15 minutes? Until the. Make a motion, we have a brief recess for 15 minutes. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I know you wanna get this over with too. He's on his way. Yeah, can I have a motion to open the. Make a motion to reopen the meeting. Second? Second. All in favor? All right. So, last public hearing is application 22-02W, proposal by Little House Living LLC to construct residential dwelling units and discharge drainage in the upland review area on lot 10, block 114 at 1676 Berlin Turnpike. Have a motion to open a public hearing.
Make a motion to open public hearing.
Have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Who's up for the?
Good evening, Attorney Tim Sullivan on behalf of the applicant, Little House Living LLC. First, I'd like to thank you for accommodating us tonight. We had another meeting with Jim Edmund, we didn't do that. Thought we had time, well, another public hearing, yes, so we have some egg on our face, but we apologize and appreciate it. But anyways, Jim Cassidy is here, Pat Snow, he's a principal of Little House Living, is here as well. Another part of the development team is Ian Cole, he's not here. You have his soil scientist report. The applicant is proposing to construct residential dwellings on property known as 1676 Berlin Turnpike, from a hotel site from the previous age of the Berlin Turnpike. No wetlands will be altered, will be affected. 3 residential dwellings and a stormwater management system will be constructed in the upland review area if the project is approved. The application was filed in January of 2022 while the applicant was still waiting for some testing information. The proposed 16 single-family buildings and 2 duplex structures totaling 20 units. The original filing has been revised. The original proposal was for 2 storm tech chambers, underground chambers, to be installed for the stormwater management. One would have been in the southwest corner of the lot, and one would have been in the northwest corner of the lot. The test pit results resulted in combining the 2 storm tech chambers into 1 chamber in the northwest corner. This, to accomplish this proposal, was revised to the 8 duplex buildings and 3 single-family buildings, 19 units total, so a loss of 1 unit. And the buildings along the west boundary were pulled back to approximately 35 feet from the neighbor's boundaries to allow for more buffer. So significant changes were made from our original submission back in January, and a very similar planning and zoning one. The test results in the area of the underground detention system has an infiltration rate of 1.5 inches per hour, and the system designed for 0.5 inches per hour, but more than adequate to handle the stormwater management. I don't want to steal too much of Jim's thunder here. What's that?
You did a good job, bud.
He's here, we can talk about the upland review area. It's 0.323 acres, or 14,080 square feet being affected. The character of the wetland, as Ian Cole described in his report, is characterized, is submitted by his registered soil scientist. Concerning the neighborhood involvement, the applicant recognizes their frustration. The land use process can cause frustration. For instance, this whole process started with a text change. To infill development of old motel properties, old dilapidated eyesore properties. Of course, it's an eyesore. Most of these properties are eyesores. This infill development, which was brought on by the economic development director, as he acknowledged in a newspaper article, enhances the property, stabilizes transient housing, and affects many parcels. I know this isn't in your purview, the neighbors here today. We haven't had a chance to address the neighborhood since the original planning and zoning. So I just wanted to address some of the things that had occurred at the earlier meeting. At the P&Z special, so there's frustration in that text change, but the text change affects many parcels up and down the turnpike, and you can't have individual, it's not designed to have individual notice to every parcel that's going to be possibly affected by a text change. It's not a site-specific change. The P&Z special permit, there were drainage calculations missing. This delayed the project many months. All of this leads to a perception that there is no transparency, and it's frustrating. Actually, the transparency of the process revealed these deficiencies in the original P&Z special permit. The process of involvement of the community is necessary. What's allowed in the regulations necessarily doesn't always gets approved. Some things, there are compromises made. Dialogue, what I'd like to say is dialogue should be civil and not personal provocations. There is no need for fighting language. And at our previous public hearing, we encountered a little bit of that by such words as profiteering and things like that. Let's stick to the specifics of the proposal. I don't think we want socialism. Profits driving America, it's the greatest country in the world. And so to call someone or try to demean someone by calling them a profiteer, address the issues, not the person. Okay, that's all I have to say right now. Turn the rest of it over to Jim at this point.
So good evening for the record. My name is Jim Cassidy with the engineering firm Allison Cassidy. I guess the first question I would ask is where do you want me to set up in this room? So everyone in the audience can say, you want to stand over there? Yep. Sorry, I'm going to block a few people.
If some of you want to move over here, just don't block the TV, but you'll see this better.
So again, for the record, my name is Jim Cassidy, professional engineer, principal with the firm of Allison Cassidy here, and I represent LLC, who is the prospective purchaser or is the owner and this property. So in 1676 for the term for purchase, and eventually apologize for being late. Unfortunately, I'm triple booked tonight. This is my second meeting. I don't think I make my third. So I apologize for being late too. A little bit about the existing property. The first page I have up here is an existing site photo of the site. Outlined in yellow is the parcel that we're talking about this evening. Is about 1.9 acres. Presently zoned B2. This is the Berlin Turnpike 2, which is a commercially zoned property. Off to the right is Berlin Turnpike or Press Parkway. It's on the westerly side of the road, so the north is up on this page. To the rear, to the west is Holly Court, which is a residential neighborhood. Then there's some additional commercial properties to the south and above us. As was mentioned, this was a former hotel site. There were a total of 8 structures on the property. The structures have been demolished at this point, or it's a hotel site. The site actually had 3 curb cuts at that point, this being the Berlin Turnpike, there's a curb cut in the north, one in the center, and one down in the south, and so basically it's a big mass gate area with a big driveway that ran around the circumference. When we got involved in developing plans for the site, it came to our attention that there actually was a wetlands offsite to the north. Found this on the GIS map, so we hired Ian Cole to go out there, a certified soil scientist, and delineate wetlands. And what he found is along the northerly boundary line, there's a wetland associated with the intermittent water course. This intermittent water course basically is the outfall of the drainage system from the Berlin Turnpike. It discharges along this property line. It's a narrow channel, 3 to 5 feet wide, with steep side slopes that come down to each side. Draining in a westerly direction off into a larger wetlands area off to the west here, continuing on to Cove Road. So there's technically no wetlands on the property. The property is bordered by existing deciduous and evergreen trees to the north, and then a series of evergreen trees off on the west-hand side, and continuing down the south side. The center of the site is primarily clear. The elevations, this slopes away from Berlin Turnpike. It drops off about 6 to 8 feet in elevation to this westerly boundary line. There's a steep slope down to the residents down along Highway Court. In addition to along the northerly boundary, there's also a slope that goes down to that wetlands area as mentioned and the coastal court. We're here reporting this evening, we're proposing a development of this property into basically small unit rental residential units. This is a schematic site plan that I have before you. It's representing a layout developed under the new DD zone, which is an overlay zone, which allows for adaptive reuse of non-functioning hotel properties. The layout that you see before you is for a 19-unit community. You'll see that there are 8 duplex units, and then there are 2 single units, or sorry, 3 single units with total 19 units. As Attorney Sullivan had mentioned, the original application we put in before the Planning and Zoning Commission, we actually had 20 units. There was a lot of neighborhood comments during that meeting, particularly along Highway Court. The setback requirement along Highway Court is 15 feet. And taking a look at existing vegetation of wood lines there, we decided to pull that section back. So now we are a minimum of 35 feet, we picked up additional 20 feet onto that property line. And although you cannot really see it on this, but if you were to overlay photos, you would find that these new units pull back anywhere from 10 to 15 feet from where the old hotel units were. So it's actually increased upper those hotel units were. What this allowed us to do is to save the existing vegetation along that property line and also provide a meaningful backyard off at each one of these units. We're proposing to close down the northerly and southerly curb cut, providing one single curb cut into the property with a driveway that circumference around the center of the property, 2 duplex units to the center, individual driveways off that circular roadway into each one of the units, which will have a single car garage at each unit. So for parking, there would be 1 garage space and 1 driveway space for each of these units. The driveway is wide enough to accommodate additional parking around its perimeter for any guests that they may have. Grading and drainage. We're going to work with the existing grades that are out there. Again, if you come off the site, you're going to find them drop as you come off the Berlin Turnpike. We'll create a slight high point at the front of our driveway to ensure we don't get any water from the Berlin Turnpike coming down into our development. From there, we'll drop down. We're working with the existing grade around the perimeter of the site. The houses will be elevated up slightly to ensure that the water runs away from it back into the roadway. As part of the road system, we are proposing to construct a series of catch basins to collect all the runoff from the roadway and the driveways. In addition to, we have a series of yard drains behind the units. These yard drains are all designed to pick up the roof leaders from each one of the units, collect it, put it into an underground drainage system, and then convey it to this larger blue rectangle. This larger blue rectangle is proposed to be an infiltration system and detention system. In that, it will promote infiltration and groundwater recharge, but it does also have a control outlet to attenuate flows out. So when we take a look at a model post-development, we find that our discharge from this system will have no increase as we go to the inward water course off the north side of the property. If you take a look at drainage today, what you find is that the property basically, the majority of it actually sheet flows off over the slope to the west and then down to the residents on Highway Court. By incorporating the design of our roadway drainage system and intercepting our roof leaders, you'll find that the area that continues to drain down towards Highway Court will be substantially less. So there's actually a significant reduction in sheet flow off this site as it goes down to Highway Court. As was mentioned, when we initially laid this out, we anticipated having several infiltration systems on the property. We had a smaller one up at this northwest corner, another one down at the southwest corner, some smaller ones intermingled between the buildings. We did go out and perform soil testing, and we also took some soil samples and had a lab test to have permeability tests done on it. During soil testing, what we found is this northwest corner We found a nice gravelly material. It had a nice infiltration rate. In addition to, we had adequate depth to seasonal high groundwater. We had a depth of 5 feet to seasonal high groundwater. In the southwesterly corner, I ran into some tighter soils, some silts and clays. In addition to, I ran into either a knobble edge or some old type of concrete structure that was in place. So that forced us to eliminate the infiltration system at this corner. In addition to, as you came off the Berlin Turnpike, the soils were not beautiful. There were more silts and clays. So it forced us to actually rethink the system out, redesign it. We came up with a new system consisting of what they call StormTex units with plastic underground infiltration system. The model I believe is SU 780, so it's a 24-inch high unit. So what it will do is it will promote groundwater recharge, something good, it's a good best management practice. So it also be able to hold back some water and continue making flows. We have a catch basin, or sorry, manhole that comes out of it. The manhole will have a controlled weir in it that will regulate the amount of flow that comes out. From there, it will discharge through what we call a level spreader. This is basically a series of galleys where they're buried halfway into the ground. On the downhill side, and the upper half is exposed. It allows the water to fill up in them and then discharge it out at an even rate and even over a longer distance. Then it will be allowed to continue on to intermittent water course, which where the majority of the water goes today. These level spreader is also designed, once again, to promote groundwater recharge, which is the best management practice that we're trying to achieve. For utilities, there's an existing sanitary lateral that comes in off of Holly Court up into the property. It serviced the former hotels. We're going to be reutilizing a sanitary lateral. We'll be dropping a new manhole on it, and then a series of manholes to the back of these units, and then a couple out in the roadway. All the new units will be tied into this sanitary lateral, and they continue to discharge out to the sanitary sewer system at Holly Court. Water we brought in from the Berlin Turnpike. There's a water main that runs along the entire frontage. There will be a loop system that will run around this driveway and come back into it. So there's a series of fire hydrants off that for fire protection. All the utilities will be underground, such as electric communication lines, so they'll be all underground. We've also designed not to interfere with the rural drainage system. So, as Mrs. Attorney Sullivan had mentioned, since last time we had a lot of go back and forth with drainage and how we're going to make this all work. So at this point, we prepared and submitted an extensive drainage study. As part of the drainage study, we looked at several different drainage areas. So when we're preparing a drainage study, what we do is we build a model of existing conditions, and we take a look at different discharge points. This is a site plan, and the blue lines on it represent different sub-areas. I can show you another map of what actually happens is there's a large sub-area off the Berlin Turnpike, as I mentioned, it drains down and actually goes to this culvert and down through this water course. So that was part of the model we created. You want to do that because you want to see by the time the water from the Berlin Turnpike drains down here, when we deal with the water on our site, how does it impact it? Because what happens sometimes is if you have water coming a far distance away and it takes a long period of time to get there, sometimes you're better off getting the water sooner. But in this case, we found that this underground infiltration system would be the best means. So as part of this model, we took a look at 3 different design points. Again, we looked at one going to the water course. We looked at 2 going to the existing properties along Holly Court. And then there's another drainage system off to the south. And all those storms we find, we analyzed it from anywhere from 1 to 100-year storm event based upon stormwater models built. We found that in all cases, we actually have a decrease in flow post-development. And the bigger thing is, if you take a look at the site, there's no treatment for stormwater quality. By doing the infiltration system, doing the catch basins, and we also, per town recommendation, we add filters to the catch basins to collect pollutants. You're actually treating the stormwater that's going to that water course, whereas today it's not. It just runs off the site. So what does this all mean? As was mentioned, we have the wetlands off to the north side of the property. Per your regulations, there's a 50-foot upland review area from the wetlands line and represented by the red line. To be able to develop the site, we have 5 units that would be in the upland review area, in addition to the underground infiltration system and the outlet, all would be in the upland review area. This activity would consist of a total temporary disturbance of 14,008 square feet. There is no direct impact to the wetlands. We are promoting additional, or we water to continue to go to the water course, so we don't dry it up. We're also promoting groundwater infiltration by installation of the system. And Mr. Cole's report, his only recommendation was that because of the steep slopes going down to the water course, that we incorporate appropriate erosion and sediment control measures. If you were to look at the erosion sediment control plan, we are proposing a series of stake hay bales along that entire boundary to ensure we don't have any disturbance or any sediment going down towards that water course. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation and answer any questions that the commission may have.
Go ahead.
This infiltration system, is that buried or is it? It's completely
So
buried?
it's almost like a, it's a tiny buried, you don't see it.
So it's lawn on top of it?
It's a lawn area on top of it.
And what do you, I think you said the overall off-flow discharge from the site is decreased. And what do you attribute that to?
So again, right now, the site has paved areas on it and the water. So you're getting some flow off it. What I'm doing is I'm taking the roof areas, the new paved area, okay, and I'm putting it into this system, which has the line. The best way to explain it is almost like if you're filling a bathtub, okay, putting a bathtub pump, and you have a spigot that can fill that at a higher rate than if you had an outlet that can discharge at a lower rate. And that water is going to build up for a period of time. Once it's done building up, it would be discharged out. So this we call attenuates the rate, continues the flow out post development, creating storage temporarily control. In addition to right now, there's no means of filtration. So
So there's more water infiltrating into groundwater?
there's a combination of water infiltrating, and then there's also the attenuation through the control structure that's reducing the rate of flow up.
Sure.
That structure, how many years of storm, like is it a 50-year?
And this handles up to 100 year storm. It was designed to handle up to 100 year storm and to control the outlet where it was designed to handle anything from 1 up to 100 year event. So it's designed to regulates the flow for all those events.
What's the dimensional footprint of that?
This one is going to be about 50 by 50. It's about 2 feet high.
And that must be much lower than the southern part, the southeast corner. Yeah,
This is a shallow system. Initially, we had a system we were looking at that was 4 feet deep.
Yeah.
And if you look at the initial plan, the footprint was smaller. When we did the soil testing, and we found some groundwater at 5 feet. You want the bottom of the system to be 2 feet above it. So it went to a system that's 2 feet deep, so the footprint grew. So it's not higher, it's not lower than the wetlands, is above the wetlands. I think above that elevation, so about 2 feet above that wetlands elevation.
Danny, what's the elevation in the southeast corner of the property? Because it's. Are you gonna get proper flow?
So the existing grade over here right now is 130. The grade rate at the top here is 1.05.
Okay, 5 foot. And how much water are you getting off Rome Turnpike to go into that swale or?
How much water is going into the swale?
Yeah, from the turnpike.
So I'll show you the sheet that I brought it with me, but it's a bit confusing. It's the copy of your town GIS mapping, what we did. This is right down here.
Yep.
Okay. The blue area is the drainage area that's going to that system. It's actually about 54 acres that goes through that system.
So the input of water into the wetland, are you telling us it's essentially like a net no change?
Net no change.
And perhaps the water's cleaner because you're filtering?
There goes through a filtration process again. Right now, there's no catch bases, nothing out there. So they maintain that park lawn paths. Any treatment they put on it runs off any cars that may have drip fluids and ran off it. No treatment. We put a drainage system in, we collected a series of catch basins. Okay, the catch basins have the ap filters in them, which are your first line of defense to filter out pollutants. In addition to, you have deep sumps in the catch basin, so if there's any floatables, they can stay with catch basins. And then the infiltration is always, it's also to promote not only groundwater recharge, but renovation. The system that's going in, actually has the first few rows here are what we call an isolator row. The isolator row are wrapped in a filter fabric. And what that does is it allows you to treat that what we call the first inch of runoff. The first inch of runoff is what generally carries pollutants. Larger storms don't carry pollutants. So these first 3 rows, they allow it to filter out even further. So that we have a whole treatment train here going on where there's nothing today.
And so it sounds like there's some necessary maintenance for these systems.
Yes, so
You outlined
there is a whole maintenance schedule for it. What happens is
as part of your application.
Yeah, there's a series of inspection boards on it. And then with the system itself, what you do is you monitor it over time to see if there's any buildup of sediment or anything in it. If there is, there's a mechanism that they have where you can actually go in and jet it out. Basically, as you put a jet on one side, they put a vacuum on the other side and clean any sediment out.
And because it's privately owned, are we gonna have a maintenance schedule from the home, from the
Yeah,
owner?
so as part of our plan, what we typically do is we recommend inspect twice a year. Watch over a couple of years and make a determination as to what is required. I'll be quite honest with you, a lot of these, you typically do not do much with them because all of your pollutants end up in the catch basins. As long as they're picked up in the catch basins, they never get to the system. In addition to, a lot of the reasons we used to have deep sumps and catch basins is to collect the salts and sands that we used to put on wood plantations. That doesn't happen anymore. We tend to find catch basins that are pollutants such as they drop on the ground leaves, those type of items. But again, there's definitely a maintenance schedule and it definitely needs to be monitored. What recommendation I would always make is part of the approval that we yearly do inspection by report back to this commission or to the town engineer.
Jim, how do we enforce this as far as, from the town point of view?
It's difficult.
Cause this, I mean, it's a small site and it seems like it's a lot of water. You're saying that, we need, there's gotta be something in.
I mean, typically with some of the filters that Mr. Cassidy is referring to in the catch basins, the way they're set up, the AppTech, it's almost like a sponge
Right.
beneath the grate. And when that gets plugged up, the catch basin won't drain, so you're gonna get a ponding of water above it, so you're gonna know that there's a problem and that's one taken care of.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, the town can't be responsible, it's not our town. There's gotta be something in the application that the owner of the property has to. And is there any type of,
Typically, is this, you'll see what's referred to as a best management practice document that's associated with the approval. If something does happen, we have that to fall back on, go after the property owner with. Are we out there every day looking at it?
No.
Once every 6 months? No.
no, but I'm sure if there's a backup and everything else, you're gonna get a phone call.
It's gonna affect the property.
Right,
so.
that's what I'm saying, you're gonna get a phone call, so it's gonna have to be.
But like requiring submission of an inspection and maintenance report on an annual basis, is that something we would do, or is
You
that
could-
handled?
You could certainly request something such as that, and hopefully
The town can accommodate that?
Most towns require us to do that, it's part of your MS4 permit, required to do it, so we have no problem with several different projects.
I have one more. Can you tell me from the back of the 3 units along the northern border there? Like they're all in the upland review area, but from the back of those buildings to the edge of the wetland, what is 17 feet?
And what's the minimum, 15?
This is the side yard setback is 15.
15?
So the trees aren't gonna remain there that are there?
The trees are actually down the start, so they would, remember, technically they're on property, you're looking at some canopy. That's in the photo, you see some trees, so that's the canopy that's coming over on it, so the canopy didn't trip, but I can't cut the trees on our property, they're down by the way.
I noticed them in the first overview.
And how about the trees in the back?
No, that's, we revised the plan to preserve those.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very tall cedars,
Right.
the bottoms are kind of sparse, this is part of the planning and zoning, we'll probably have to do some kind of supplementing in that area.
But those are on your property.
Those are on our property, but again, we've heard the neighbors' concerns, so we can pull them back, so we can, we're going to preserve those, or been established for obviously many years, I'd say it's probably a height of about 35 feet right now, so.
Anybody else have any questions from the commission? I'm opening up to the citizens here, but please keep it to wetlands questions. We're not gonna sit here and answer zoning or anything like that. That's not our commission. If you have wetlands questions for either Mr. Cassidy or Mr. Sullivan, Attorney Sullivan, that's fine, but keep it to the wetlands. And if you have any questions, state your name and your address.
I'd like to speak for Linda Allstrand, if I may. She's not able to be present because she's in flight right now, coming back from watching the Yukon girls. So she asked if I would read a statement for her, and I said I would be more than happy to do that. Should I stand right here? Is this good?
That's fine.
Okay.
But state your name also,
I
too.
certainly will. My name is Petra Riley, and as I said, I'm standing in for Linda Allstrand, who lives on Holly Court, and she very much regrets that she wasn't able to be with us this evening. So at the November 18th, 2021 zoning commission meeting, Holly Court property owners requested an inland wetlands review of 1676 Berlin Turnpike due to drainage and stream concerns. Well, here we are on April 5th, 2022, at the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting, knowing that our concerns were justified. On the north side of 1676, out by the turnpike, the topography begins at 133 feet, and it slopes down between 123 to 122 feet at the boundary with 51 Holly Court. The slope continues to 121 feet at the house foundation. The stream/culvert and wetlands are also at the perimeter of that property. On the north side, the topography starts at 135 feet out by the turnpike, and it slopes down to 128 to 127 feet at the boundary of 48 Holly Court. The terrain then slopes down to 122 feet where the house foundation begins. These are significant terrain drops out by the turnpike, 11 feet down to 51 feet foundations and 13 feet down to 48 feet foundation. We are gravely worried about the additional stormwater runoff coming through our foundations and up through our concrete slabs into our finished lower levels. Also, stormwater flows downhill from 48 into 38 Holly and sometimes floods that yard. The developer has revamped the original site plan for storm runoff and drainage. Now there are 8 duplexes and 3 standalone units. They have been moved back from the side yards to 17 feet. 3 duplexes abutting Holly Court have been moved back 35 feet from the boundary. This is still high-density housing, most of which will be built 10 feet apart from each other. We are still concerned about where the additional runoff from the roofs, driveways, and road will go. The developer is installing a StormTech DC 670 infiltration chamber system on the 1676 property. It will be located in the northwest corner, 18 feet from 51 Holly's boundary, and will have 57 chambers. This one system has the potential to have a catastrophic impact on 51, 45, 35, 27, 17, and 9 Holly Court. Historically, these rear yards alone flood with major storm events from the stream/culvert. With this high-density housing, there will be significantly more impervious surfaces leading to even greater basement and yard flooding. In our current climate change, we are being inundated at times with many days of heavy rains and superstorms. Consequently, these infiltration chambers will always be filled up with stormwater runoff. They are designed so to allow water to flow vertically and horizontally out of the chambers. That means that all this recharged water coming out of the chambers and stormwater runoff not captured by the drainage system will be barreling down underground beneath the saturated soil and into our lower levels. It looks like there are 2 test holes dug, one by the Berlin Turnpike and one in the northwest corner of the 1676 property. Were there other test holes that were dug? Why wasn't another test hole dug in the northwest corner in the area of the infiltration system where the storm runoff and drainage are going? Were you afraid of what you might find? Your results show an infiltration/exfiltration rate of 0.3 inches per hour, which is very low. The rate is more likely 1.5 inches per hour. How much water is really coming down to this corner now? How much drainage and runoff is really going to saturate this area? What about the additional stormwater runoff that will be going through the wetlands and stream/culvert? Is there any way to prove that all the stormwater runoff will be directed into the infiltration chambers and that the recharged water coming out of those chambers will not erode our land and enter our lower levels? Will both the town and the developer guarantee in writing that stormwater will not flood our lower levels and yards? Can you summarize in layman's terms just how this system will work and will not be detrimental to us? Can you summarize again in layman's terms how this system will work to protect our properties when the 2-year, 10-year, 20, 50, or 100-year storms come? The Storm Tech DC 670 infiltration system with its chambers is not the correct drainage system for 1676 Berlin Turnpike. It's poorly positioned and too close to the property line. The system installed at only the northwest corner has all the storm water runoff and drainage, eggs in one basket scenario. These chambers will always be full of storm water and will always be exfiltrating water out through their tops and sides. This will certainly cause flooding of our properties during heavy rains and major storm events. It will have a major negative impact on all of our lives on Holly Court. Our neighborhood would be in a much better shape if the 50-foot commercial rear setback had not been illegally scrapped. There would be more land to work with for storm runoff and drainage. Thank you very much. Linda Allstrand, 48 Holly Court. Would you like a copy of this, gentleman?
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead, you're up.
And I just want the rest of the public to go.
Well, no, you can, let's handle this situation.
So, a few questions. Yes, we did do 4 test pits around the entire site. There was one at the
northwest corner. There's one at the southwest corner, and there was two up in the front. As I mentioned, these soils we found up in front, they tend to be silts and clays. They are not great for infiltration. Designing stormwater systems, the thing you always wanted to try to promote where you can is infiltration. The system, the test bit that was done on the southwesterly corner, similar. We found that there was silts and clays, but in addition to, they found a outcrop of ledge or some kind of large concrete structure in that corner. So it would not have been adequate to even try to put a system in there with the ledge that was there. It made us rethink this system, redesign it, provide a much bigger system at the northwest corner. At that corner, we found the all sands and gravels, which are good for infiltration. Infiltration is a good thing for stormwater design. The system is not designed to solely rely on infiltration. It has a control structure that regulates the flow out. Infiltration is a bonus. It is a bonus for the environment to promote groundwater recharge. The premier outlet from this will be a control structure that regulates the flow out. System was designed so all the roadway drainage, roadways are all curbed, so the water can't run off those roadways. They are forced into the catch basins, which forces all the water from the roadways and the driveways into the system. In addition to all the roof leaders, there's a drainage system along the back of it, so all the roof leaders are tied in once you get into that system. There's a series of yard drains in here that also tie all the roof leaders in. So no impervious surfaces post-development are allowed to discharge off the site. They all go into the system. Why was only one test pit dug in the area that for the DEP stormwater quality manual? The recommendation is that you provide one test pit for every 5,000 square feet of filtration area. The system's 50 by 50, so it's 2,500 square feet. So all we're doing is following the guidelines of the Connecticut State DEP stormwater quality manual. In addition to, for the permeability rate, I tried to use a lower permeability rate. When we initially started this design, we took a look at what we call soil surveys. And based upon the soil type in this area, the permeability rate recommended ranged from 0.3 up to about 1.5. We did have laboratory testing done of the soils. They determined that the permeability rate actually is close to 1.5. We actually used stormwater quality manual as recommended, they put a safety factor in, so we used the lower. So we're just complying what's required in the stormwater quality manual as part of this design. The system itself will never have standing water in it for a long period of time. The structure that outlets attenuates the flow out is designed so it drains out within a 24-hour period. It is appropriately located. It meets all setback requirements as outlined in the DEP stormwater quality manual. Will this cause additional water to flow down to the properties to the west down to the Poly Court? Again, based upon our stormwater model, no. As I mentioned, what we've done is we took a look at 3 areas, and I don't want to bore anybody with a lot of numbers. But what I'll explain is if I look at what I call sub-area A, or sub-area 1, that drains off to the west, for a 1-year storm event presently, we're looking at a peak flow of about 31.57 CFS, that's in the water course, 31.57. Post-development, 31.1, so it's actually about half a CFS decrease, and then we go all the way up to a 100-year event. So a 100-year event basically is basically a storm that has a 1% chance of recurrence every given year. If you had a 100-year event in this area, you would typically have probably over 9 inches of rainfall, which we have not seen in a while. We did have some big storms over the past year, but they tend to be 5, 6 inches, but nowhere near a 100-year event. But just for explanation, if you were to have a 100-year event, this water course technically has 178 CFS in it. Post-development with the stormwater model we built would have about 177.5, so it's about half CFS less. So we tried to keep all the flows going to the water course very similar. We don't want to take water away from it. We don't want to dry it up. We're going to keep it very similar. More important part is if you look off to the west is sub-area 2. As I mentioned, right now there's no controls. Everything, a large portion of the site, actually sheet flows off onto onto those properties. By the creation of the roadway and roof leader infiltration system, the only thing that's allowed to continue to sheet flow off is just the rear yards of these houses. So it's just lawn area and putting area to continue to flow off. Again, I don't want to bore you with numbers, but when I take a look at the design point coming off of this area, redevelopment for 1 year event, I was looking at about 0.48 CFS, post-development about 0.04 CFS, all the way up to 100-year event. Again, you're looking at about 9 inches rainfall, looking at a rate of discharge off of about 3.8 existing, post-development about 1.2, so it's about a third. So it does significantly cut back the amount of water. So I see it as actually helping drainage situations. I know the properties over there are low and I can't fix all the problems, but I can propose that we take the majority of the water away, control it, post-development. So hopefully that answers most of the questions.
I have some other Holly Court neighbors that might have a few things they'd like to
Yeah,
just voice their.
I'll just read it, I don't know how much redundancy there is, so.
Your name and your
Oh, yep,
address?
yep, my name is Patty Bergio, 27 Holly Court. So we were not personally notified as interested parties, from the Inlands and Wetlands Commission, and yet we have a culvert running through our backyard. The culvert is aging rapidly and as is undersized for our drainage. It is our understanding that the proposed building will be 50 feet away from said culvert, I don't know if anything has changed since that, causing more runoff and potentially leaving us vulnerable for flooding. My husband and David and I would like to know if any of the town officials in the Planning and Zoning and Wetlands Commission will ensure the impact of the newly added runoff water of the proposed property and will not cause more property damage and land erosion for our property than we're already facing. In addition, with the recent changes to the original plans, there's even more concern than before as the storm runoff, drainage, and filtration containment is now on the stream side and poses more of a threat of damage and failure to our property. In the past, during particularly heavy rainstorms, the already aging and undersized drainage culvert that runs from the backyards of Holly Court, Lower Lane, and Peter Farley Road can barely handle the current conditions without the added stress of the development in question. In addition, it's unsafe. When it rains, the culvert rushes water at a rapid speed. It's exposed on our properties, and as homeowners, we are unable to secure the area for the safety of people and pets because it's a right of way. I'm just gonna share a quick personal experience with you guys that happened to us. Our daughter, Martina, is a graduate of 2021, and all she asked for was a graduation party at our home in our backyard. So, I had invited all of our guests. We even went about talking to our neighbors about the added cars. We called the Berlin Police Task for management of vehicles, and we went on with our businesses. They came and put the tents up on a Thursday. It had, I don't know if you all remember, it rained, significantly last July. They prepared for the festivities, and due to the overflowing culvert and water drainage on our property, the tents were sinking, and subsequently we had to move the party to a local fire department. Even though the rain had stopped and the sun was shining, our yard was a complete disaster. Had the culvert not overflown, we probably could have carried on with our plans and, had our party. Imagine the disappointment and chaos to make this change happen with 100+ people. I can't even fathom what more runoff water could do in another rainstorm of this caliber. That being said, we feel that we are interested parties and that we should have been notified of these changes and all of these deals that are happening. So we would like to know if in the case that our basements were to flood or somebody's injured on our yard, when this culvert starts to rush as it's done in the past when we didn't have this extra water coming our way, who's responsible for it? Who's gonna actually take on the responsibility of our yard or the damage if somebody was to get injured? I think we have to reconsider what this is gonna do to the neighbors and what it's gonna do to our yards. Here's a picture, and you can't see it very well. This is the neighbor's house during that particular storm. And this is pretty much what it looks like every time. So our concern is if more water is gonna come, our yards aren't gonna be able to handle it. So here's for minutes. We try to all take care of our yards and do the best that we can in what we have, and it's just sad to see that a potential building like this could wreck it even more. I mean, our sheds erode, it's been an issue.
This picture is taken from where?
From my backyard.
Where's the culvert?
So it's 27 and 17.
But is the culvert behind
Yes,
here?
right there.
So when it rains, it floods, I'm on 17 Holly Court, Sonia Ursuoli. It floods all the way up to my pool. On normal day, my kids, I have 2 young kids, they can't play in our backyard because when it rains, like my whole backyard's wet for days. My husband and I tried everything to fix it, and they have the main stream in their backyard, and we're dealing with the same thing. It's just any ounce of rain we get, it pools, and if it rains more in a couple of days in a row, I have mosquitoes, you can't even play in the
Your
backyard.
feet literally sink in.
Yeah.
Like you can't, I literally almost broke my ankle during my graduation party because you can't walk.
So it's a big cause for concern for us. We just implore you to take a better look at it and, think of us as tax-paying citizens. What's best for us. Thank you.
I got a question, John Sizadowski, I own the property Berlin Auto Center sits on. How many gallons does that tank hold?
I thought I better bring a full report, but it's probably about,
50 by 50 by how big?
so it's 5,000 cubic feet, so that's gonna be about 35,000 gallons.
So you plan on discharging that right into that little stream at one time, one shot? Or just very slowly?
It has control structure
Right, so you're gonna,
that regulates the flow.
so 35,000 gallons?
Correct.
Additional, so what's there? Additional, that what's running through there, you're gonna put more water into that?
We're putting the water into it, we're holding back the water, correct? Holding back the water.
And you calculate all the sheet flow off the roofs and off the pavement?
Yes,
For that?
Per service of the.
How many inches per hour? Was used for calculations?
So we get anywhere from a 1 to 100 year event. So
Which
when
is-
you're building a stormwater model, you basically based it on a 24-hour event. That's the requirement of the stormwater quality management.
So how many inches would that be?
So again, for a 100-year event, you could be about 9 inches over
That's a period of how long?
24 hours.
24 hours. And that tank would hold that,
Correct.
35,000 gallons.
Correct.
Wow.
Could you say that Sherry Rice, 38 Holly Court, could you say that it's designed for that water to drain within a 24-hour period?
Correct.
So it's still draining out in a 24-hour period?
Yep.
So if we get 6 inches, 7, 8 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, all of that water is gonna drain out of that?
Yes,
In a
but
24-hour period.
the property is already draining out that way. So what you're doing is you're taking a look at the change in the surface conditions. When you change surface conditions, it will increase the amount of runoff. That's what you need to hold back. You need to hold back that increase. So that's what this is designed to do, hold back that increase, so we don't increase the rate. There is mentioned, there's a culvert downstream, it can only handle a certain amount. You don't want to increase the rate to that culvert where it can only handle a certain amount today. We want to hold that back so we're not impacting that culvert.
To just prolong the water going through there.
Discharge over a long period of time.
Yeah.
You mentioned sheet flow. Right now, the water just
It
flows to
just
the
flows
back.
right off.
How much will it help for this drainage system?
So again, looking to the west, for a 1 year event, it actually cuts it down by about, to a tenth. For the larger storm events, it cuts it down by about a third. It's taking up a significant area that presently drains over that slope.
So that's significant water that goes down to that swale on the north side.
So the swale that goes down the north side,
Not big enough.
what's that?
That's not big enough.
The swale.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it's taking up 54 acres
Right,
of Berlin
that's what
Turnpike
I'm
that I
saying.
can't control.
Right.
I can control what we have going to it on our site.
So all the water that's coming down that swale is coming from all the other properties going down to the back.
There's a large area to the north that drains down to the Berlin Turnpike. And then again, for this system, everyone's, does a system work, does a system work, we use it all over the place. I gave us several applications in town where we recently constructed this accurate dealership on the Berlin Turnpike, all front parking lots, underground infiltration system, the new commercial building at 196, Berlin Turnpike is an underground infiltration system. We have some other residential developments, and we have underground systems constructed. As you know, with Rocky Hill, with Starbucks, Carbone's Prime, there's 2 huge systems underneath those parking lots also, that all control it. The water discharges at a rate of less than what was originally coming off those properties.
right now, as those pictures show, the stream can't handle what's coming down there now,
That's
so
why
it's flowing.
I can't have an increase.
Right.
Right,
But along with this, it's gonna be an added,
but again,
it's gonna even make it worse.
so we have to build an extensive stormwater modeling. We took the time, we pulled back, we prepared a whole report, submitted it to the town, for review. There's certain criteria that we need to meet, done it as part of that report. I mean, you have to control it. I mean, we have to control it if we're gonna develop the site. That's how you develop property. Just to let it go is the wrong thing to do.
So these people are gonna be suffering more floods in their backyards. I mean, like this, right now, it can't handle it.
We prepared a model to show that if we're not, again, we've done it in several places, so we're.
Another question, how about to the south, there's a drainage swale there, what are you planning on doing with that one?
We're leaving it alone, nothing's going to it.
Okay,
So
how
I think
far,
that is the
how far the
drainage.
home's gonna be away from the, I don't see it on the map. Map is like, long.
So I just sort of blow for the, back there.
Cause I own the pipe that goes, where it goes into, so I'm concerned.
So the drainage swale you're referring to comes down along the
Yep.
northerly
Yep,
property,
yep.
and cuts across this corner of the
Mhm.
property. And then discharges again, so I'm 15 feet off the drainage swale at that point.
How about those other houses, how far away are they?
This easier?
No.
The other
One's-
side,
Easier?
Down. To your right,
Easier,
yes,
this 17
17 feet, to the drainage swale, is that the middle of the swale, or the edge of the swale?
to the edge. Because the drainage swale is on your property.
Yeah.
And I'm
Cuts
17
over to that property,
Correct,
and
because
then cuts back into my property.
Correct.
Right at the end.
It cuts across this corner of the property right here.
And it's gonna be left alone?
That's we left one. We're not discharging any water to it.
And the swale on the northern border is entirely off
Correct.
your parcel.
Off our parcel.
So who maintains that swale? Do you guys know?
It's actually an easement to the state of Connecticut. It's part of the state drainage system.
If what I read on the map, it was DOT.
And this thing gets their culvert too. It's supposedly undersized or whatever. So-
It's not whatever it is undersized, sir. With all due respect, if floods, you're welcome to come to my
No,
house the
I
next
believe you,
rainstorm
I believe
and
it,
look
it's
at
a private landowner
Yeah.
dispute, we can't correct something that's been on your property for 100 years, or 50 years, whatever it is. We're trying to do our best to mitigate that, to actually make it better, but we're not gonna, we were asked by, Ostrander, her statement, are we gonna guarantee no flooding of your yards? It happens now before we do anything. We're not gonna guarantee something's not gonna happen that's existing right now. We can't correct your problem. You bought something that is not, unfortunately, is a flooding situation. And we're trying to make it better.
We tried to incorporate measures to make it better, but I have to be honest.
can I just point out one thing? I don't know, cause I don't read maps for a living, so I'm sure you guys can tell more than I can. That our property, that's a 10-foot difference from where the edge of where this is dropping to our stream. And sometimes it's hard for people to visualize that, but it's important to know because things take path of least resistance and downhill is certainly
And
one
we're
of those
capturing
things.
that, and we're capturing that now. Now they're just sheet flows to the west. We're capturing that into the infiltration system. So it's not gonna sheet flow onto your property anymore.
Yeah, I really pushed the whole development back to the east, get away from that slope. Again, we were 15 feet off, but we were at the top of the slope, but pushed it back an additional 20 feet. So we're developing a flat area all the slope with the existing vegetation can remain. So we might have to worry about erosion issues while we're down the property.
Wouldn't it be safer moving, it's at 35 feet in the map, if you moved it to 50 feet, wouldn't that prevent it even more?
So.
Move the houses
So as I mentioned previously, what I did in pushing it is I
Yeah.
tried to keep into the existing disturbed developed area. Okay, so if you remember what it used to look like when the motel units were there, you can actually see on this photo, see it, because I got a later photo. At this end, I'm an additional 5 feet back from those units are, and on this end, I'm about 15 feet back from those units. So I'm completely in a pre-developed area at this point. There's no vegetation required to be removed other than the center island here. There's some vegetation up here. At this point, I have a 20-foot flat area on the back of these houses. before it even gets to the wood line, we're not disturbing. So if going back another 20 feet is really not gonna do anything else to reduce the potential for disturbance of that slope.
Anybody else have anything? Any comments or questions of?
I agree. This is Irene James, 51 Holly Court. I agree with the water runoff. I've been there, I've been living there over 40 years, and I know it gets flooded. The backyard is flooded. It's like she said, it is wet. I had the city come out before, there's a drain in the back, they dug it out, but it still gets wet. And it comes underneath the foundation too. A lot of time when that water runoff is underneath the foundation, like you say, basement or whatever. But it does flood. That water do come down. And like she said, maybe they should move it 50 feet, instead of 35, move it up. I never had a problem with the people when they were in the motel, but that's close. You're putting a lot of units out there. You want to put all these units out there, they're only 2 bedrooms, you say, that if they got kids and stuff, what are kids gonna play? Where they gonna park? That's when you start thinking about the units you're putting out there, it's not enough space, not for that many units.
Well, as far as we're concerned, we can't make them change the distance
Right.
between, probably that's not our,
Right.
we have to look at what he's given us.
We understand.
And the facts that he's presenting us, that's all we can go on. And I understand your concerns about the flooding and everything else, I think we're gonna have to look into this. I think, I just assume, continue the public hearing until.
Obviously, Mr. Chairman, you've received a lot of information this evening. I'm sure a number of the members want to digest what's been presented. You have the option of continuing the hearing until the next.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what you guys think, but I think that would be for our benefit to look at everything that was given tonight from Mr. Cassidy. Just to go over it, we can discuss it and continue next meeting.
And then in the meantime, I ask, anything you need from me, if we can pass it through Jim, I'll gladly meet with him, even if he wants me to take a look at adjoining properties and drainage conditions, to identify problems. I know we're already involved in a project with the town, or something further to the south on the skin water course. Drainage issues.
Yeah.
I don't wanna belabor this too much, but I'm gonna ask more questions, just to make sure I've got it.
So
this infiltration, it's increasing infiltration into the groundwater from current conditions.
So, yes.
And so if a concern might be that that's gonna wind up seeping into basements, what do you say to that concern? If you are in fact increasing groundwater infiltration?
Here's a better way to look at this.
Yeah,
If you take a look at the property today, you had 8 buildings, you had a circular driveway, that was impervious surface. Majority of the water that hits that surface, it just runs off.
Yeah.
You had lawn areas. Because of the soils, a portion of that water ran off. A portion infiltrated into the ground, a portion evaporated. I can't give you the exact numbers, but when you're designing a system, what we're doing is with the new development, there is more impervious surfaces. So if we were to let it go, there would be water running off the site, okay? And you're taking away that water that's infiltrating into the ground in the lawn areas. So therefore, this is why we promote a portion of the water that's going into the system to infiltrate into the ground. For the next meeting, I'll let you know what the portion of infiltrating in it is compared to what's being discharged to the system. It's not significant, it's not the entire storm that's being infiltrated in the ground.
Right.
Okay, and it's a very small portion of it, but you do want to promote that. That's a recommendation of the DEP, that we promote somewhat groundwater infiltration. If nobody's comfortable with that, then we need to look at an alternate type of system where it just retains or detains the water in it discharges it out without infiltrating at all. But I wouldn't recommend it. I know the DEP stormwater quality manual doesn't recommend it.
And you talked about how the system is actually decreasing the cubic feet per second through that swale.
Correct.
But on, like, to this gentleman's concern, on a total gallon basis over.
So the way drainage systems work is, if you change the surface condition, you get more volume on. So typically you used to see where we built detention basins. All that detention basin was doing was holding back that additional volume. Yes, there's more volume. Again, by doing this type of system, whereas we're taking away infiltration value because the lawn area is gone, we're promoting that infiltration back into the soil, so you don't have as large of volume. That's what you're trying to detain. You're always, anytime you begin to develop, there's going to be an increase in volume. That's not what we're designed for. We have to design for the increased runoff, so we don't have the increase in peak flow that's impacting the culverts, the drainage systems on the neighboring property. That's the way a drainage system is designed.
So it could handle more gallons, but spread out over a longer time frame without exceeding the capacity of the swale, in theory.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Question? Is there any other options? Can you put it down a storm drain?
Put it down a storm drain?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, storm drain is the water course to the north.
Yeah, but is there any other options besides that?
There's no other, the problem is that Berlin Turnpike's uphill, I can't watch water run uphill. I can't get to the drainage system, the Berlin Turnpike, and quite honestly, the outflow of the drainage system, the Berlin Turnpike is that drainage system down to the north.
But downhill, there's no pipe you can connect to, or besides running it through people's property?
It would have to go through people's property to.
Well, I'm
get
just saying, it's like run it down Holly Court underground, or somewhere
You'd
down.
have to go through somebody's property down to Holly Court, and then it's still, even with that, we're still gonna wanna do some kind of detention of water.
Wouldn't that be better than putting it down the swale?
No, quite honestly, the swale's a better place to go. I mean, if we take the water away from the swale, you're gonna decrease the value of the swale because it has less water going to it. We wanna try to mimic the same conditions that are in the swale today.
Adding 35,000 gallons into
We're
it.
not adding 35,000
Well, I'm
gallons.
just saying-
There's a volume going to it.
Right, at a slower pace, but still adding.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You're still adding.
Adding something, not adding
So to
35.
prolong, my question is if we do get a lot of rain and it slowly brings it into there, if our yards are wet for 3 days due to a storm, is it gonna prolong that because it's gonna continue adding the water and our yards are gonna be wet even longer?
So we're getting rid of it in a relatively short period of time, whereas if I really hold it back and retain it, you have a longer period of time, but we're getting there. So one of the other things in building a model is when you take a look at drainage areas, you take a look at, I always say there's 3 points you look at drainage, at the top of the watershed, middle, and I'm actually near the end of the watershed here. So designing it, the rule of thumb is always detain as much as you can at the top. Take a look at the middle, you don't detain as much at the bottom, because by detaining at the bottom, it actually has an adverse impact a lot of times. So the system I provided is releasing at a rate, so I don't have that adverse impact in this area. Again, we're using some infiltration in this particular case to reduce that adverse impact that could be happening if nothing was done here. Something needs to be done here. If the property gets developed, something needs to be done here. I'm not comfortable with just discharging to this water course directly. I wouldn't be comfortable with just discharging to a drainage system in Holly Court. It's not designed for the handle it. There would have to be some kind of detention or retention on the site.
Along those lines, I know you expressed concern about it. I'm sure all of us have the same concerns, is how the maintenance of that thing is going to be established. I mean, because we could all sit here today and say, in the perfect world, we're gonna do this every year, and then it doesn't happen, and then where are we at that? Because once deals close and people make promises and the promises aren't fulfilled, then where do you go from there?
Well, that's why I asked that, and it'll be part of their package, they're gonna have to do it. What happens from there is up to him, and the town will have to monitor that. If it's not being taken care of, I don't know what the ramifications are as far as what happens to the property owner. But he will have that in writing, that he has to take care of it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think also, it was addressed earlier, there was, what would happen with the, I think it was described as a catastrophic possible failure of this system. Well, I think Mr. Cassidy described what happens. Water's gonna come up through the catch basins on this property, because it's not filtering off the property. So people, the town's not even gonna have to monitor it. If it doesn't get maintained like it's supposed to, and water starts coming up through the catch basins, the property owner's gonna have to address it, because it's affecting his property.
Well,
But
right,
assuming the property owner goes to the property.
right, but I think what she's concerned about is that, yes, it's gonna affect his property, but what's gonna happen if he doesn't?
But the catastrophic failure is on his property, not off his property. It's not like that system's gonna fail and throw water onto that property, it's gonna back up onto his own property, is the catastrophic failure.
Well, if it's backing up onto his own property, then it can very well back up into the culvert, into the stream, not just his property. If that happens for a long period of time and the property owner doesn't see it, then that possibility is there. Just as the possibility of a catastrophic failure is there. It's something that needs to be looked at and be addressed.
Everybody that drives into that development will see water coming out of the catch basin, just like I see at the bottom of Brandon and Patterson Way. When that fails and it comes out of the catch basin down there as well, they gotta clean it out.
Okay, with all due respect,
That's how the
yeah,
town
people will
maintains
see it, but it doesn't mean that they're gonna do something about it. You can see a lot of things.
You have to do it when it's flooding the road. You can't get into the development, you have to deal with it.
Or have flooded road, the owner's gonna know about it.
It's going to go over the other side too, I would assume. It's not just gonna go into his roadway.
Again, the way the road is designed, it's lower, the driveway's all pitched back to the road. It's all pitched back to the road. So if the water were to back up, it would pool this whole section of the road. They would know their road would be
It's
flooded.
essentially what would happen, what does happen at the corner of Brandy and Patterson Way when we have flooding, when it backs up there.
So I just have another question, as silly as it may be, it's just a thought. Would any of this change like our homeowners making us like a flood zone? Because now there's more water being added to that? Okay. Because that's a right of way from the town, like we can't cap it, we can't build up, we can't do anything with it, so just,
You're not in the designated flood zone.
okay, I didn't know if this would change that.
This is our map right here,
Okay,
and that's from the federal government.
Okay.
That would not
wouldn't change
apply.
And I think the culvert too is that, you know, as much as you're saying it's a town, it's just a state DOT culvert. The town really has nothing to do with it.
town comes and cleans it.
Do they, you guys-
Once in my 20 years of living here, they
I think farther down,
Yeah.
it runs into a town system.
town system, right, but the part that we're talking about
The
here
old
is,
ditch.
yeah, that's all DOT.
we should take up with them.
I guess you could. You know,
Because
you
it's
could.
already an issue, so you can imagine the fear that we have as homeowners of what the impact will be on us regardless of, it's our homes, it's our home. You know?
If the state modified that swale or that ditch, whatever you wanna call it, to flow better, is there any way of eliminating that water down?
So, I would defer and I would wanna take a better look at that and, you know, see what the issue is. I don't know whether it's a culvert that's downstream that's undersized, that can't
But
handle.
that's owned by
or
the
if
state?
it- Was that?
That culvert's owned by the
Well, if it's
state?
downstream, it's might be owned by the town. So that's why I gotta, you know, understand better where this issue is.
We've had problems in the past with the inlet to the town system, probably halfway down
Yeah, that's.
along the properties of Holly Court. The typical scenario, the neighborhood, it's a dumping area. They throw their debris in the ditch,
That's a
blocks up the culvert.
Collects a lot of water.
That's one of the big problems we have with water courses is that it ends up getting dumped with debris, with, you know, sticks or not maintained, you know, you get dams in it. So that's what causes flooding problems, so I'd rather, you know, work with the town, you know, maybe walk in, you know, with, you know, property owner's permission, you know, walk in, you know, if there's something we can take a look at. This is a solution, or there's a situation going on that can hopefully,
The issue is not with the property, it's
It's not the
from
property.
the stream that
This
comes
is
further down, is where the
downstream,
issue is
right.
that the water isn't allowing it to go through. So the development there won't affect it, it's gotta look at down the stream where the problem really is.
That exists today, pre-development.
Correct.
Well, as property owners are concerned is that post-development, there's gonna be more going into it.
It's our absolute concern,
Well, I mean,
amongst other things.
I'm going by his numbers, he's saying that if they're gonna be a less of an impact on that, because he's saying it's through his 1 year to 100 year, it's less of an impact, there's less water going in there because he's gonna help because of the infiltration system. And again, we have to rely on his numbers.
It's good on paper.
And well, I mean, that's,
Well,
he's
it's
a-
more than, it's
Yeah.
not certified to the.
yeah, I would say he's a
It's very
certified, you know,
To us.
and he has to, you know, he can't give false numbers or else he wouldn't be doing this very long.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years and
Yeah.
I'm not looking to put my license.
Right,
And the quality of the discharge is gonna be improved too, by the stormwater management.
right.
Whether it be just oils off the road being captured.
But there's no other questions or comments from anybody from the
So
commission?
that runoff for the 2 acres is not gonna increase the flow in that. It's not gonna change anything from what it is today.
It's gonna reduce it to the west.
Yeah, just say it's gonna lower it.
To the west.
Yeah.
Our court.
But if not, I would like to make a motion to continue public hearing to April, to the May.
May meeting, which
May-
will be
I
the
haven't
first.
done the math, but if an extension is necessary, we're right about, that'll be about 62 days, I think, right? We opened it when, March 3rd?
No, we never opened it.
No,
We just opened it then, we didn't open it?
This evening.
Okay.
this is, yeah. So we have time. So, yeah.
Well, whenever there's an extension, if necessary, we always grant
Right,
it.
but yeah, I need a motion to extend the public hearing for application 22-02W.
I make a motion to suspend application 22-02W to May meeting.
Can I have a second? All in favor?
Folks, and that'll be the first Tuesday of May. I don't have to date.
Yeah.
Third? All right. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for coming, thank you for your comments and your input, we appreciate it.
Is this the 7th of May?
Dave, unfortunately, the commission went to open the hearing and no one was here, so we continued the opening of the hearing until the May meeting.
Real,
Yes. Nobody was here.
I thought we're third.
Well, the first two went really quick.
Well, we first
Right.
requested to be moved due to a complication. The second went through
And we had a 15-minute recess. If you came in then, we could have put you in.
That's what happens when you're with 10 minutes or less.
So
I
yes,
actually went home for dinner.
Right,
they already, unfortunately, they already took the action to continue it.
yeah. Okay, we didn't hear from anybody, so we just assumed it.
Thought maybe Tom would be here.
Yeah, Tom said he was gonna be here at 7:30. And he's still
Don't
not.
see him here yet.
He came in real quick and he walked away.
All day.
Did he really?
Did you really?
No, before, after we did all that. He was here right before you,
Oh, wow.
and then he walked away.
Anything, what was that? What's this?
Railroad ponds?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that, just for, as far as correspondence goes, I know you've often heard me talk about, where
Yeah.
the agency's notified when permits are granted to treat ponds,
Yeah.
for algae.
Yeah. That's
other
paper goods?
growth. Yes, paper goods. You've never seen the actual application. One came in and I mentioned to Lisa, I said,
Okay.
let's give you one so you can see what's
Yeah,
involved.
'cause I looked at it, and I kind of read through it, and I said,
I'm not making it up.
I said railroad pond, I said, it's gotta be paper goods. All right, if not, anybody else got any comments, questions?
You've heard enough about
If
storm
not, I'd like to-
drainage systems tonight anyway, that's what we got.
Refresh our memory next month.
Yeah, next month, yeah. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
I'm not gonna be here, so have fun, fellas.
Gee, thank you, yeah, you're a real pal.